Welcome to a couple of bunkies. Last year we had a little bit of a demolition and construction video where we ripped out an old hot tub and replaced it with basically nothing.
We already had some water lines and a hole in the floor, so we decided to put the sink where we had the water lines, and we decided to cover the hole with a beautiful inlay.
So we just inherited a dog, and a dog was continually stealing our cat's food.
We wanted to give the cat his own space to eat. At the same time, we wanted the animals to have the water available 24/7.
We ended up making a cabinet based off of this design, and we ended up making this sketch showing how the cabinet would look at the end.
We started off by taking the 2x2s to the table saw to cut the grooves in them. We needed to cut 2 grooves in the 2x2s in the back and just 1 groove in the 2x2s in the front.
We knew that the panel that we were sliding into the groove was slightly thicker than the table saw blade, so we went over everything a second time after adjusting the fence. So I took out my miter saw and we attempted a joint that we had never tried before. We decided to use 3-way miter joints. This joint does not have a lot of gluing area.
But in this case, we had panels providing additional support. So we dared attempt a 3-way miter joint for the cabinetry.
After getting all the miter joints cut, I go ahead and lay everything out and take the dimensions needed in order to cut out the back panel. We measure from groove to groove.
Then over on the table saw, we started cutting the back panel to the size measured earlier.
We ended up using this panel for the back of the cabinet and the 2 front doors. We initially wanted to use the handy panel for all 4 sides of the cabinet, but we decided to get Western red cedar wall paneling to match the paneling on the wall in the room. The dimensions were slightly thicker than the other wall paneling, so we had to increase the size of our groove with the table saw.
After that, we took out the miter saw and started cutting that cedar paneling to length. We cut out 1 trial piece, and oh my gosh, how wonderful cedar smells when you're working with it. We dry fitted the trial piece into the grooves we made earlier to ensure snug fit. Then we stacked the rest of the panels on the miter saw and cut them to length to finish 2 sides. And just so we don't have a $2,000 gluing table, we flipped over a jig used to flatten the tree rings, which is, by the way, another video in the future.
Please like and subscribe and ring the bell icon in order to see this future video. After we got the work surface ready, we went ahead and did a rough dry fit.
After the dry fit, we made some minor adjustments and then started gluing the cedar paneling into its frame. Oh no, gluing is so hard. I'm so tired, I need some caffeine.
Sounds like we need a cup of coffee. If you'd like to buy us a cup of coffee, please go to buymeacoffee.com.
Where, for mere $3, you can buy us a cup of coffee. Or you can subscribe for $5 a month to our walnut level, where you can get access to some premier content that will be released ahead of time.
Just look for Bunky's Woodworking at buymeacoffee.com. After the side panels had dried, we went ahead and did a quick dry fit of the handy panel. Now we will glue up the handy panel that will end up making the back of the cabinet.
Once the back panel was completely glued up, we started framing the front of the cabinet.
We ripped some 2x2 material in order to make the door frame. We also glued up the door frame together.
We let the glue set overnight. Next morning, we sanded down the whole project so that all the surfaces are smooth and flush.
We took some measurements and then did some planning for the doors.
I really wanted shaker style doors because I like the design. So we started making the frames using 2x2s and ripping them in half.
We ended up using miters, just like you would a picture frame, rather than butt joints of the shaker style.
We decided to use the leftover handy panel to insert in the frame. After a quick dry fit, we took out our gluing surface and started gluing process.
We left the doors to dry, and then we started working on the countertop. This countertop did not need a lot of work. First, we rounded the corners with a jigsaw. We prepped the area with blue painter's tape so we would avoid tear out when going over everything with the router. Then we rounded over all of the edges facing outward.
We went with a 2x6 board of this knotty pine because we liked the look of it.
We sanded the top in order to prep for a coat of polyurethane.
We also put a coat of polyurethane on the cabinetry. After 2 coats of polyurethane and sanding in between, we were ready to install this project where it belonged.
Using a step bit, I went ahead and cut a hole in the side of the cabinetry in order to run the water hose. I ran the hose to the pet waterer that we had gotten from Amazon. I ended up having to lower the pet waterer just a tad in order for the hose to line up with the side of the pet waterer and reattach it to the wall.
We had taken some measurements earlier and made a floor panel for this cabinet.
The pet waterer included a drain plug. We decided to run a hose from the drain of the pet waterer to the original drain underneath the pet cabinet. We also added a valve so it would not continually drain.
Next, we installed the cabinet doors. The hinges that we had on hand needed us to put a shim between the hinges and the front frame of the cabinet.
Now we go ahead and install the door catch. This allows us to have the doors secured so the animals don't get in the cabinet.
And finally, we installed the countertop. We screwed this countertop from the bottom so we don't have any screw holes on the top.
Now we find out how the dog and cat get along in this area. It only took a little persuasion on our part to get the cat on top of the cabinet in order to eat its food.
We went ahead and put all the pet supplies into the cabinet and realized that we have a lot of vertical space still left so we can install a shelf.
So I took some quick measurements and I went ahead and cut some scrap wood in order to use as shelving material.
Tim cut a sheet of plywood to size along with the corners cut out and screwed them on 2 pieces of support that were screwed into the frame of the cabinet. He made sure that the shelf is leveled by using a level gauge.
And here's how the cabinet turned out. Lots and lots of pet supplies all in one cabinet, all of the animal stuff all in one room. We really love this idea.
The cabinet made this space very functional.
And our pets love it too. Leave a comment if this is something that you would like inside of your house. Thanks for watching.
Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy our content. Links to our social media pages are in the description below.